Hello everyone, I am violinist Paul Huang, and
Well, I'm Danbi
we are so happy to go on Facebook Live right now with all of you for this next hour of the segment as part of the VC celebrating 50th anniversary of the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. What you just heard was a lovely tune called London Dairy Air, also known as the Danny Boy. It's a piece that Danbi and I play very frequently together, a piece that we love very much performing, usually after a very long evening of duo violin recitals and as an encore. So I hope you enjoyed that. We're here this hour as part of this wonderful celebrations, thanks to the Violin Channel. So we're here actually to do the VC AMA, which is short for Ask Me Anything. And for the next 20 or 25 minutes, we will be online with all of you who are tuning in. I think we have about like 90 people already. That's wonderful. We are actually in New York City at the moment. It's about 5:12 in the afternoon. And basically, if you have any questions, comments about Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, about chamber music, about violin playing, or literally anything, please feel free to send them our way. You can type in the comment below, and someone will get them to us, and then we'll try to answer as many as possible during the next 25 or so minutes. And
so just ask us anything. Not that we will answer everything, but you are free to ask whatever, and we're also free to answer whatever we want. So see.
Already, okay, great. We already got some questions. So from Joan, how long have you both performed with CMS4?
I joined CMS2. I auditioned and I was accepted in 2014, and the official CMS2 residency started in 2015. So it's a 3-year program, so 2015 to 2018, and then after that, I graduated to be the normal artist member.
Well, I'm actually the same kind of the timeline with Danbi. We both actually joined the Chamber Music Society, the now called the Bowers program, in 2015 as the CMS2 members at the time. It's a 3-year program where we get a lot of opportunities to play, incredible chamber music repertoire with senior musicians and also our peer colleagues as well. And those 3 years were, really invaluable for both of us. And then now we are just very happy to be part of the CMS family, and then continue to make music on stage here at Lincoln Center, Ellis Tully Hall, and also around the world, actually. Okay, the next question from the Sally Ann. What are the biggest lessons that you have learned from playing with CMS? You go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think playing chamber music as opposed to playing solos, I think it requires even more of sort of a democracy, and also the idea of listening is so important in chamber music, and actually in all kinds of music making, but in particular in chamber music, because every time you pair it up with a different group, different colleagues, inevitably the interpretations are different from the last Schubert quintet that you've played, and so you have to be very open-minded, but also at the same time, one has to know very clearly of how you have envisioned the piece, and hopefully those can come through in a rehearsal process, and then to come into some sort of a cohesive interpretations before going on stage. And so I think for me, being part of Chamber Music Society really taught me how to advocate for my own interpretation, but at the same time also to be very mindful and very sensitive about other people's interpretation, and then to sort of hopefully come to an agreement and then meld an interpretation together at the end of the day for performance. So I think that kind of process is very valuable for any musician.
I think for me it was really the fact that in the roster of CMS there were artists whose playing that I loved so much, and whose playing that I knew about before and I really wanted to meet. I'm not going to mention names because I'm kind of shy about it, but it was such an honor for me to actually get to play with them and to perform with them, and because I love their playing, I could just ask them, oh, can you show me how to do this? Oh, how do you play this? Oh, how do you do this shift? Or oh, can you just play me anything? And just kind of be there in person to be able to hear some of the really greatest playing that I really like. So that was, I'm not sure if I can actually incorporate it into my playing, but it was just more of a sheer enjoyment that I got to experience.
Okay, from Matt. Unlimited rehearsals with the new combination of chamber players. How do you prepare for this, and what are the plus and negative?
I think that we usually get about 3 days of rehearsals before a concert plus a dress rehearsal. So that seems like a good enough of a time to kind of get to know the piece, get to know each other, and discuss like certain points, and maybe argue a little bit. But it's not long enough for us to kind of get into arguments or to have not such good experiences. Maybe if the piece is not your cup of tea or whatever. So that's a plus sign, but then also the minus sign would be that if you really happen to love the piece and you really love working with the people, then it can seem like a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I probably echo with all of you what you have said, and I think the plus side for me of coming together with a different group of musicians is always the kind of unexpected interpretation or the unexpected things that happens at rehearsals that I was like, oh, I've never thought about that, or that bowing in that particular. And usually, with playing with senior musicians or more experienced artists, that I always can get to pick on say, oh yeah, that's a wonderful things that I wanted to learn and things like that. And with such a short amount of rehearsal time, you have to come together very quickly, and I think in a way actually more efficient. And then it will have the whole week of preparing for one piece, and then you start to nitpicking of very little things, which is also wonderful. There are wonderful sides of that, but I think the only negative thing is that when you wanted to work on something more in depth, you only have certain amount of hours to work on it, and so you actually kind of have to allocate. Say, okay, we only have 6 hours for this particular piece, so we need to sort of allocate what are the most difficult movements that we to give more times to, and things like that. So yeah, it's just plus and negative as in any other situations in life, I think.
Hey, from Sharina, how do you enjoy playing together? Do we enjoy playing together?
I think so far so good.
Yeah, the good thing about it is that when we don't enjoy, we can always call it a day. So there's no like, oh, we have to do 3 hours of this like before the concert. We do as much as we want, where we need or you don't need. So I'm sure when we don't enjoy playing with each other, we can just not accept engagements too. I think that's the surest way.
And we don't sugarcoat, so that's good.
Yeah.
From Jerome, how for you have been the positive outcomes of COVID? Okay. Well, it's a kind of a complex answer, I suppose, as with any other people, especially musicians. I think this kind of a forced sabbatical since March supposed to give us some time to rest and also give us some time to kind of reflect on various things in life that usually when as a musicians you kind of just go on kind of autopilot day to day because you're just really really busy and traveling, playing concerts, preparing for the next concert, preparing for the next project. So you kind of just have to kind of power through, and then with this time of sabbatical, I think one thing that I really enjoyed is a sort of a routine, which I think neither of us really had since after school years. And so,
I never had any kind of a routine before, actually. Just hated it when I was young.
So when we like, kind of just having sort of a set schedules, and it actually is much more productive in terms of practicing and finding out the goals, which sometimes can be hard because there's no deadlines for us for the last few months. So I think the time to kind of do things that you like, or like I have never had time to actually kind of like remodel my own apartment for the last 16 years, and it's piled up a lot of junk, and over the years, just so busy, that's the last thing that you wanted to do when you come home from a long trip. So it's been actually really wonderful, and I love cooking and finding out new recipes and where to go grocery shopping during the COVID time, and it's been actually really really wonderful for me.
I'm going to combine the question that was just asked. There's just one right before that. It's from Sarah. It says, how do you enjoy living in New York City? I moved here about 6 years ago when I joined CMS, and I can't say that I enjoyed New York City at first at all, because I've never really lived in a big city. I grew up mostly in Philadelphia from age 10 to 18, but it was a very tight-knit community, and when I first came here, I felt really lost because, I came here and I didn't have that much to do to begin with, because it was my first year. I was actually living abroad. So the fact that everybody was so busy playing concerts, and I'm like, how on earth am I going to survive here? So all that, and I felt like, I feel that I'm pretty introverted, and I felt that at the time that, oh my gosh, everybody here is so ambitious and so extroverted, and how can I mingle? But it's been 5-6 years now, and I've either gotten used to it, or I've been contaminated, or whatever you call it. So I actually enjoy what the city can offer in terms of like all the places that you can go by foot or on bike or on scooter or whatever. So I like it. And some of the positive outcomes from the COVID times, in terms of violin playing, I would say that before I was always I'm a very much of a last minute prep person. I don't want to do that, but I just do. So I'm always kind of trying to cram for the upcoming concert, which means you just have to work on the things that would be the most obvious. Like you cannot mess that up, because then you'll be laughed at or whatever. But actually during this time, I can actually just work on the basics much more, as I always should. I can work on intonation for like an hour on a piece and not have to worry about, oh my gosh, I don't have time. So it's good in that sense that I can just kind of go back to my basics. And in terms of just the personal life,
what are some of your new hobbies?
I used to hate the question, because I'm like, I don't have a hobby.
But now you do. You have several hobbies.
I just watch YouTube videos, and I'm not very proud of that. But I was never a morning person before, but somehow I came across this video on YouTube, and I thought, oh, I should just give it a try. So nowadays I actually get up at 5 before 6, so like 5:55 ish, and then I have 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. just completely for myself, and I do all kinds of things. I'm learning some calligraphy fonts. I'm working on copper plates really hard, and I write journals. I read. So it's actually that those 2 hours is the best time for me during the day. And then even if I feel not so great during the day, where I get upset or anxious or whatever, I feel pretty much the happiest during those 2 hours. So you guys should try that too.
Well, also I think also it's just the idea of looking up for sunrise. I think those moments are actually really magical, and
it is, yeah.
And the whole world hasn't really started it.
It's kind of amazing. Like when I look out the window at 6:15, it's completely dark. You just think it's in the middle of the night, and then I get my cup of tea and I write like 5 lines of my journal, and it's 6:25, and you see this ray of sunlight, and it's pretty much bright.
And yet it's quiet.
It is really quiet, and I love it.
I think that's great.
From Lara, how do you both practice in your apartment at the same time? We don't practice at the same time. That would be terrible. I mean, we kind of did for a while, and then we got
some complaints from the neighbors because everyone was, on lockdown in April, and then so first of all, I think everyone is very anxious, and there are some kids next door, and then parents have to deal with the kids 24/7 now, as opposed to having nannies come over and then they're going off to work. So we kind of develop sort of like we separate our practice times. We have like a living room that's kind of soundproof, so whoever is practicing gets that room, and then the other persons just have to stay as far away as possible. And as in New York City, every apartment is very small, so you do what you can, have your noise canceling headphone on, or go outside for a walk or things like that. And
and I also happen to really not, I mean, no offense to Paul, but I really don't like hearing the sound of violin practice because it's so high and it's so shrilly.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't even like it when I practice either, so I can only so I definitely put my headphones on and like listen to some ambient noise or ASMR. I like those like rainy days, music. So it's much more enjoyable.
Music that means nothing.
Exactly.
What's the next? If you could only perform one trio, quartet, or quintet for the rest of your life, what would it be? That's a very hard question from Zeke. I know that I really like the Dvorak F minor piano trio, and I think that's just one of the great pieces in the repertoire that doesn't get played very often, and I can play that piece for as long as possible. Oh, and also the Gober Variations, the string trio version from Sikovitsky. That's also, for me, it's incredible work. For you?
I have a few pieces that I can say, but what I will say is this actually. If the question was more like if you could only perform, I would much rather listen to a great trio than perform it on my own. So I don't want to answer that really.
Is there one? That's it. Do you guys share fingerings and bowings?
Yeah,
from Susan. Oh, that's a great question, actually. So now we have actually combined our libraries. So, there are pieces that I've not played before, there are pieces that she has not played before. So we kind of share the music so that we don't have to, buy another sheet music or print out another music. And in terms of like chamber music repertoire, because very often that we have to kind of mark in cues or who has what leading voice and things like that. It basically score studies. And so for us, the advantage is that we get to have those comments in the music already, so I don't have to go through, the pieces all over again from scratch. So that's a plus.
In terms of, do we use kind of the same fingerings and bowings? I'm not really good at coming up with fingerings and bowings that are very convenient, like in fast passages. Like it just takes me a long time. But he's really good at it, so I'll just be like, I can't play this, and he's like, oh, just why don't you try using this fingering, and it really works, and that would just save me like half an hour of practice.
Vice versa too.
Yeah, but in terms of like melodic passages, I mean, we've had pretty different training. I went to Curtis, and he went to Juilliard, and our teachers were very different. So the kinds of like fingerings that I was taught with and what I feel comfortable are very different. So I wouldn't say so. I would think that I'm more comfortable with not necessarily playing in positions, but kind of like, I guess you'd call it crawling around. I rather do that. I have kind of octopus fingers. You know, they're long and like double jointed and not great.
The other day I was like practice for like 1 hour of like, you know, a shift of 1 and 2, and I can't get it in tune, and then I got so frustrated, and then like she was like, oh, why don't you just do 2 and 3? I said, oh, how come I never thought about that?
It worked immediately.
So it's really helpful to have someone, you know, it's like more objective, where you're, you know, get bogged down with like a certain passage and you just keep trying. It's like, it's not working. Just do 2 and 3. It's gonna be fine. And oh, sure.
From Miguel, what concert in your career were you the most nervous for? I do have some kind of a stage fright, not all the times, but sometimes. So I get nervous in most concerts. I can't really say that, but being nervous is not always a negative thing. It can also actually work in a positive way. But the times that I was nervous, really nervous, and it had a negative effect was like years ago when I was doing a few competitions, and I would get so nervous, especially as I would go up the round, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, now they think I'm good, but I'm actually not, or whatever, you know, all kinds of things happen. And so I do have a few instances where I still have a trauma for it, but, you know, that's life. What can I say?
Actually, for me, some of the more nerve-wracking experience for me actually happened at Lincoln Center at CMS, because, you know, a lot of the musicians are the ones that I really look up to for many, many years, and then just the idea of going on stage with them is kind of, you know, frightening at the beginning, and especially first joining such a prestigious organization. Can be a very kind of a daunting thing, and then not knowing, you know, what's the protocol, am I supposed to do this, what should I do next, and, you know, am I offending someone, and so I think, yeah, probably what the first few concerts with German Music Society at Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center, it's exciting, but at the same time very nerve-wracking, and also playing in the big hall, playing chamber music in the big hall, where I'm not so used to then, before joining CMS. So I would say those were some of my more nervous experience going on stage.
Okay, so we can only answer 3 more questions, and then we'll have to call it a day. From Stella, now that you're both out of school and working professionally, what advice do you have?
Oh my God, I wish we have advice for us too. I guess we do get asked this sometimes in master classes, but, you know, I think we're both also very young musicians ourselves too. And one thing I will say is that there is no general advice for anybody. It's kind of like, you know, a very beautiful shoes. Someone wears it very beautifully, but the same shoes, if you wear it for someone else, it doesn't really necessarily look good or fit well. So I think a path for a musician is always very different, and there is no same path for every musician. But I will say that it's a very difficult profession. It's not something that one can judge or can be advanced based on, let's say, oh, if you win like an Olympic game, where, you know, oh, if you run faster, you get the prize. But for music, it's very objective. So, you know, there are many, many musicians who are just as good, if not better, than the ones who are very, very well known as well. So it's really hard to judge. But I think the only way to be in this field is to have utmost dedication and passion for music, because it's a very difficult field, and only passion gets you to practice and gets you hopefully to motivated to want to learn pieces that you aspire to and pieces that you love. So I think my general advice would be you have to really love music first.
This is something that I think I heard from Paul Watkins, where he heard it from somebody that said it to him, that he said there's a reason why advices are free, because they're useless. So, but and in a way it's true, because I actually, when I think about the advices that I received, the one that really kind of, the one that I think about the most is that he said, just don't listen to other people telling you what to. Just listen to your guts, and everybody has their own instinct and what you want to do. And it's kind of true. And what I would say is that, at least for me, I don't appreciate every kind of music. I just don't appreciate every composer in the way that I feel that I should. But then I realized that there are certain kinds of music that I just absolutely adore, and there are few artists that I just, when I listen to them, I get goosebumps, and when I listen to music, I don't always have that kind of reaction. So when Paul says, "Oh, you have to love what you play, you have to love music," I think it's okay that if you don't love everything, but I think it is important to find a certain way of playing, or like a certain style that is just that you can actually emotionally relate to. So whenever I have doubts, and I still do, I think of those moments and I listen to those artists, and it actually kind of brings me back to the feeling that, oh my gosh, I'm really fortunate to do these, to be able to experience these kinds of music that I normally wouldn't have if I were not playing the violin. So,
Great.
Yeah, I mean,
Next one.
Okay, two more, right? So, from Todd, is it hard watching yourself play on YouTube, or it's just part of being a professional?
Well, I think it's very hard to watch yourself unless you're actually forced to watch yourself for practicing purposes, to hopefully play better. And I think we are our own toughest critic. Very often people always say, "Oh, you sound wonderful, you sound great," but very often those kind of doubt always kick in within you the moment that you stop playing. It's like, "Oh, that was awful. Oh, that was terrible. I should have done this. I should have done that." And so, yes, it is hard to look at yourself on social media, especially so abundant these days. And it's kind of like food chef. When they go to a restaurant to eat, they can't help it, but they start picking, say, "Oh, what was the ingredient? This could have been this. That could have been that." And so it comes with profession, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because oftentimes when we approve our own videos, oftentimes I feel like, oh, no, that's not good enough. Oh, I can't approve that. But then there comes a point where I don't have anything, because I don't have anything approved. So you do have to let it go. And then the part that makes me the most nervous when I watch myself play is I know exactly how I felt when I was playing that piece. And if I feel good, then I'm more or less like, well, that's just how I play, take it or leave it. But if I know that I felt kind of terrible, or, oh, that didn't go well, and I was getting really nervous in this part, I get nervous that the viewers can also sense that, and then I just feel this sense of shame.
Although there are some videos that we haven't seen for a long time, and then when we come back to it, but knowing that back then, it's like, that is a video that we should have not approved, or things like that of some sorts, or still hasn't approved yet, but we went back to listen to it for our study purpose, and it's like, oh, it's actually better, a little bit better than we thought, because at the moment you get so bogged down with after the performance, and then you know exactly where you feel uncomfortable, like what you said. So maybe even it didn't really transmit to the audience or to the listener, but we feel it ourselves. So times does help, I suppose.
Yeah. Last question.
From Ginger. What are the best duo works for two violins? Not enough. Actually, we recently, part of our duo collaborations for two violins with or without piano is to sort of try to expand the repertoire, because there are actually really not that many. There are some wonderful works, like Prokofiev, Mushkovsky. Also, recently we did the Izai two violin, solo violin sonata. So it's a very, very beautiful sonata, so all of you should check it out. But recently we were approached by the Wolf Trap in Washington to give us a commission for two violins and piano by American composer Chris Rogerson. And the piece is titled Afterward. And we were very fortunate to be able to premiere that before the lockdown. And we will probably have a few more chances to perform that in the coming season. And one of the ones that actually coming up, since nowadays all the concerts are live streamed, we actually, the duo violin, we will be playing a live stream concert actually on September 25th on dreamstage.tv with pianist Amy Young, our favorite pianist, and it's going to include a varieties of works: Mendelssohn, Wagner, Hubai, Damiani,
Mushkovsky, Sarsate,
Brahms, yes, all sorts of things. And we are very, very happy that our friend Fred Child from American Public Media's Performance Today will be hosting the event, and with some more interviews about the pieces and then about us, I suppose. So if you all are free on September 25th, please join us on the website, dreamstage.tv, and we'll see you live. So I think we are about to finish, because at 6 o'clock, I think the Violin Channel is premiering another CMS video. So I hope all of you will also tune into the 6 o'clock segment as part of this CMS 50th anniversary celebrations with the Violin Channel. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're very delighted to be with all of you. And thank you, Violin Channel, for inviting us to do this live chat.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Everyone. Bye.